Imagine sleeping comfortably in a house made entirely of ice while outside the temperature drops to -45 degrees Celsius. Sounds impossible, right? For thousands of years, the Inuit people of the Arctic did exactly that. They built shelters from frozen blocks of snow that could keep them warm enough to remove their outer layers while a deadly blizzard raged just inches away. Today, we're uncovering the genius engineering behind the igloo, a survival masterpiece that modern science is still trying to fully understand. What you're about to learn will completely change how you think about architecture and survival. Welcome back to Frostivian, where we explore the incredible ways humans have adapted to Earth's most extreme environments. I'm your host, and today we're diving deep into one of the most fascinating survival shelters ever created, the traditional Inuit igloo. When European explorers first encountered these dome-shaped snow houses in the Arctic, they couldn't believe what they were seeing. How could blocks of frozen water keep people warm? It seemed to defy logic. But the Inuit weren't just building random ice huts. They were master engineers who understood thermodynamics, structural integrity, and material science long before these terms even existed. By the end of this video, you'll understand exactly how igloos work, why their unique design is so effective, and the surprising scientific principles that make them one of the most efficient shelters ever conceived. So hit that subscribe button and let's journey to the Arctic together. To understand why igloos are so remarkable, we first need to understand the brutal environment they were designed for. The Arctic isn't just cold. It's one of the harshest places on Earth where humans have ever lived permanently. During winter, temperatures regularly drop to -40 or -45 degrees Celsius. Wind chills can push the perceived temperature even lower, to -60 degrees or worse. At these temperatures, exposed skin can develop frostbite in less than 5 minutes. Your breath freezes instantly in the air. Metal becomes so cold it can burn your skin on contact. But temperature is just the beginning. Arctic winters bring months of polar night, where the sun doesn't rise for weeks or even months depending on how far north you are. Blizzards sweep across the frozen tundra with wind speeds that can reach 100 kilometers per hour, creating whiteout conditions where you can't see your hand in front of your face. There are no trees for building wooden shelters. No caves to hide in. No natural windbreaks. Just endless stretches of frozen ground covered in snow and ice. The Inuit people who called this place home needed shelter that could be built quickly from the only abundant material available: snow. And they needed it to keep them alive through the long, dark winter. The igloo was their answer. And it's absolutely brilliant. Here's where things get fascinating. Snow isn't just frozen water. It's actually one of nature's best insulating materials, and the Inuit understood this intuitively. When snow falls, it creates a structure that's about 90 to 95% trapped air. Those tiny pockets of air between the ice crystals are what makes snow such an excellent insulator. Air is actually a terrible conductor of heat, which means it doesn't allow warmth to escape easily. This is the same principle used in modern insulation materials and even double-paned windows. But not all snow is created equal for igloo building. The Inuit specifically looked for what they called pukak, or wind-packed snow. This is snow that's been compressed by strong Arctic winds, making it dense enough to cut into blocks but still maintaining enough air pockets to provide insulation. This snow has the perfect consistency, firm enough to stack without crumbling, but porous enough to trap heat. The Inuit would test the snow by pushing a specialized knife called a panna into it. If the knife went in smoothly but required some resistance, the snow was perfect. Too soft, and the blocks would collapse. Too hard, and they couldn't cut proper blocks. This knowledge was passed down through generations, a sophisticated understanding of material properties that would make modern engineers nod in respect. Building an igloo isn't just about stacking blocks of snow. It's an intricate engineering process that begins with careful planning and precise execution. First, the builder identifies a flat area with the right type of snow. Using a long knife or saw, they cut rectangular blocks typically measuring about 60 centimeters long, 40 centimeters high, and 20 centimeters deep. Each block weighs between 15 to 25 kilograms, manageable but substantial. Here's where the genius begins. The first row of blocks is laid in a circle, but then the builder cuts this first ring on an angle, creating a spiral. This is crucial. Unlike building in straight horizontal rows, the spiral design means each subsequent block leans slightly inward and rests against the previous block. This creates a self-supporting structure as you build upward. As the walls rise, each block is placed at a carefully calculated angle. Too steep and the igloo will be too tall and unstable. Not steep enough and you can't close the dome. Experienced builders can do this by eye, but the mathematics behind it are precise. The blocks gradually curve inward, creating a catenary dome shape, which is one of the strongest architectural forms known to engineering. The final block, called the key block, is placed at the top from the inside. It's cut slightly larger than the hole remaining and then shaved down to fit perfectly, locking the entire structure together. At this point, something amazing happens. The igloo becomes incredibly strong. The weight of all the blocks pressing down on each other creates compression strength. You could stand on top of a well-built igloo without it collapsing. The entire construction process, for an experienced builder, takes about 2 to 3 hours. In an environment where survival depends on speed, this efficiency is remarkable. Now comes the question everyone asks: how does a house made of ice keep you warm? The answer involves multiple ingenious design features working together. First, the Inuit would build an entrance tunnel that slopes downward before entering the main chamber. This isn't just for protection from wind. It creates a cold trap. Cold air is denser than warm air, so it sinks and stays in the tunnel area, preventing it from entering the main living space. Inside the igloo, the Inuit built raised sleeping platforms from snow blocks. Since warm air rises, the sleeping area would be significantly warmer than the entrance level. The temperature difference could be as much as 15 to 20 degrees Celsius between the floor and the sleeping platform. But here's where it gets really interesting. The Inuit would light small oil lamps made from seal blubber inside the igloo. These Kullik lamps provided light and heat, but not much. You'd think a tiny flame couldn't possibly heat an icehouse in minus 45-degree weather. But remember that insulation we talked about? The snow walls with all those trapped air pockets prevent the heat from escaping. The temperature inside could reach 15 to 20 degrees Celsius while outside it's minus 40 or worse. That's a temperature difference of up to 60 degrees. Even more fascinating, the heat from the lamps and body warmth would cause the inner surface of the igloo to melt slightly. But instead of the whole structure melting down, this thin layer of water would refreeze quickly, creating a smooth ice glaze on the interior surface. This ice layer actually makes the igloo even more windproof and adds structural strength. Some igloos even had a small ventilation hole at the top. This seems counterintuitive, but it's essential. It allows fresh air to enter and prevents carbon dioxide buildup from breathing and the oil lamps. The Inuit understood air quality management long before modern building codes existed. The igloo wasn't just a survival shelter. It was a reflection of Inuit culture, practicality, and deep environmental knowledge. Different-sized igloos served different purposes. Small hunting igloos could be built in an hour for overnight stays while tracking game across the ice. Family igloos were larger, sometimes with multiple rooms connected by tunnels. Some communities even built kagak, large communal igloos for gatherings and ceremonies. The Inuit could read the Arctic environment like a book. They knew which snow was right by its sound when walking on it, by how it reflected light, by how the wind had shaped it. This wasn't mystical knowledge. It was scientific observation refined over thousands of years of living in one of Earth's most challenging environments. Women often handled the interior of the igloo, creating comfortable living spaces with fur bedding on the raised platforms. They managed the oil lamps, controlled the internal temperature, and even hung wet clothing on drying racks inside where the warmth could dry them without direct heat that might damage the materials. Today, most Inuit people live in modern heated homes. The traditional igloo building skills are practiced less frequently, though cultural programs are working to preserve this knowledge for future generations. But the engineering principles of the igloo haven't been forgotten. Modern architects and engineers study igloo design for inspiration. The dome shape, the use of locally available materials, the thermal efficiency. All of these concepts influence contemporary sustainable architecture. Some emergency shelters used by Arctic researchers and military operations are based directly on Igloo principles. Climate scientists build snow shelters at polar research stations using traditional techniques. Survival experts teach igloo construction as an essential skill for extreme cold weather situations. The mathematics of the igloo's dome structure have been analyzed and taught in engineering programs worldwide. Even space agencies have looked at igloo design. When planning potential habitats for Mars or the Moon, engineers have considered dome structures made from local materials, using principles remarkably similar to those the Inuit perfected centuries ago. The igloo represents something profound about human ingenuity. Faced with one of the harshest environments on Earth, with no modern technology, no complex tools, and only the materials nature provided, the Inuit people created a shelter that rivals modern engineering in efficiency and effectiveness. They understood thermodynamics without equations. They mastered structural engineering without computers. They created sustainable architecture using renewable materials that left no environmental footprint. An igloo melts in spring, returning completely to nature, yet can be rebuilt whenever needed. The next time you hear someone say that ancient people were primitive, remember the igloo. Remember that keeping a family warm and safe at -45 °C using nothing but snow and knowledge is anything but primitive. It's genius in its purest form. If you found this fascinating, you're going to love our other videos exploring human adaptation and survival in extreme environments. We have videos coming up on desert survival techniques, mountain architecture, and the incredible ways humans have learned to thrive in every corner of our planet.